I'm Claire Reynolds. I'm 35. And on the night of my mother's 65th birthday, I stood outside a luxury event hall in downtown Milwaukee uninvited. It was one of those perfect early autumn evenings, crisp air brushing my skin, golden leaves swirling around my heels. I had bought my mother a pearl brooch, something she once told me reminded her of her own mother. I wore navy, her favourite colour. I told myself I'd just walk in, hand her the gift, hug her, maybe stay an hour and leave quietly. But instead I found myself facing my father, his back rigid, his arms folded, his eyes cold as granite. "You're not on the list, Claire," he said flatly. No greeting, no smile, just a human bouncer keeping out his own daughter. I laughed quietly, maybe too bitterly. "Dad, come on, it's Mum's birthday, I just flew in." He didn't budge. We sent invitations to people who prioritise family. Before I could respond, I saw her. My sister, Julia. She was in a crimson satin dress, hair perfectly curled, sipping champagne as if she lived in a TV drama. When her eyes caught mine, she didn't look surprised. She smirked. That smirk stung more than I cared to admit. I held the gift tighter. A waiter swept by with a tray of hors d'oeuvres, looking between me and the family drama unfolding like a scene in a bad indie movie. I stepped back out of his way and out of my family's orbit once again. Let me rewind for a moment, because if you don't know the backstory, none of this will make much sense. I was the middle child. Always. That's not just birth order, that's a role, a script written in invisible ink across every holiday, every birthday, every photograph. Julia, the oldest, was the golden girl. Ballet recitals, law school, structured blazers, praise from teachers and relatives alike. Everyone said she was born to lead. Then there was Sean, the youngest, our baby brother, a charming underachiever always with a new hobby or failed job. People called him free-spirited. They meant he got away with everything. And then me, Claire. Too quiet, too independent, too far away, the one who left. I wasn't rebellious, I just needed room to breathe. I left home at 18 for college in Portland, took an internship in Seattle, and eventually built a life in San Francisco, working in tech startups, long before it was trendy. I became COO of a fast-scaling company by 30. My work was demanding, exhilarating, and for better or worse, my anchor. But family. That was always complicated. When I got promoted at 33, I sent an email to the family group chat with a proud message, "Just signed a multi-million-dollar expansion deal today. Celebrating tonight." Julia responded with a thumbs-up emoji. Sean didn't reply. My dad said, "When are you going to slow down and give your mother a grandchild?" Mum didn't reply either. For a while, I told myself it was fine, that I didn't need their validation, that my success could speak for itself. But then Thanksgiving 3 years ago happened. Julia cornered me in the kitchen, wine glass in hand. "You think you're better than us because you make tech money," she spat. I froze, holding a slice of pumpkin pie I'd baked from scratch because Mum once told me she liked homemade things. "That's not what I think, Julia. I'm just living my life." "You left," she said, like it was a sin, "and now you think a few gift cards and care packages make up for skipping every birthday and holiday." I wanted to argue, to tell her about the business trips, the late-night meetings, the loneliness I didn't talk about. But instead I said nothing. That silence stuck to me like shame. After that night, everything changed. Mum grew distant. Sean barely answered my texts. Julia stopped pretending to like me. Dad, who had always been stern but neutral, became cold-clipped, disapproving. And yet, I kept trying. I still called once a week, still sent holiday gifts, still asked how Mum was doing. But tonight, as I stood outside that birthday party, holding a gift she might never open, something inside me cracked. I backed away from the door, slowly turned around and made my way to the car. I didn't cry, at least not right away. I sat in the front seat, staring at the black velvet box in my hand. My makeup done perfectly, just 2 hours earlier, now felt ridiculous. I was overdressed, overprepared, and underappreciated. And then a knock on the passenger window. I startled. It was a man, tall, awkward, early 30s maybe. He waved gently. I rolled a waller down the window. "Claire?" he asked. "Yes, I'm Evan," he said. "Julia's boyfriend." "Right. I had seen his photo online once. She hadn't exactly introduced us. I saw what happened back there, he said. I just want to say, I'm sorry. I nodded. Thanks. And I should probably tell you something. He paused, glancing back at the event hall. I started working at Matrix Systems 3 months ago. My heart stopped. Matrix, I asked, blinking. The Matrix Systems. Yes. The operations team. You're Claire Reynolds, right? Now I laughed. I'm the Claire Reynolds that signs your department's payroll. His face went pale. You're my boss. Technically, I said. But don't worry, I don't micromanage. He chuckled nervously, then grew serious again. Claire, Julia didn't tell your mum you were coming. She told everyone you were too busy to care. That's what your dad said too. I heard them planning not to put you on the guest list. My throat tightened. She never told her, I asked, barely able to speak. No, he said. Your mum thought you declined. Silence. Then, as if Evan had opened a floodgate, years of quiet grief began crashing through my chest. My mother, the woman who once stayed up late making me birthday cupcakes when no one showed up, now believed I didn't care enough to show up for her. I opened the door, stepped out, and just breathed. The night air was sharp and honest. I need to talk to her, I said. I don't remember walking back to the venue, only the steady thump of my heartbeat and Evan's footsteps beside me, hesitant but loyal. I'd known him for less than 10 minutes, but right then he was the only person who seemed to see me. We didn't go through the main entrance this time. Evan led me along the side of the boathouse down a small garden path that overlooked Lake Michigan. The water shimmered under the moonlight, oblivious to the emotional landmines inside that building. I think there's a side door near the kitchen, he whispered, then stopped. Look, I don't want to make this messier, but your mum deserves the truth. I nodded. Are you sure, he asked? I wasn't, but I said yes anyway. The side door creaked open, revealing a catering staff member, refilling glasses of sparkling cider. She blinked at us confused, but said nothing. Evan stepped ahead, confidently blending in. I followed my heels, clicking softly against the hardwood floors. The room opened up in front of us like a theatre stage, chandeliers glowing, relatives laughing, the hum of polite conversations and clinking silverware. And there, at the centre of it all, sat my mother. She looked radiant in a lavender dress, her grey hair curled softly around her face. She laughed at something Uncle Frank said. She looked so peaceful. Then she saw me. Her laughter stopped. Our eyes met across the room. For a moment, the years fell away. I wasn't a grown woman bruised by family politics. I was just her little girl again, the one who cried after school because no one invited her to a sleepover. The one she hugged with promises of unconditional love. Claire, she said aloud, her voice trembling with disbelief. I felt every eye turn toward me. Julia froze mid-step, her smile vanishing. She looked between me and Evan, her boyfriend confusion turning into dread. She walked briskly toward us, heels echoing louder than mine had. This is not the time, Claire, she hissed, grabbing my arm. I gently pulled away. Mum, I said, keeping my gaze locked on the woman at the centre table. I need to ask you something important. I stepped forward, slowly. Honestly, I was shaking so hard I wasn't sure I'd make it without collapsing. But the silence of the room gave me strength. Everyone was watching now, cousins, aunts, childhood neighbours. People who had known me since kindergarten, now whispering to each other. Did you think I didn't want to come tonight? I asked softly. Mum looked bewildered. Well, Julia told us you were too busy. You had some big project at work. I shook my head. That's not true. I told her weeks ago I'd be here. I moved meetings. I bought a ticket. I bought this. I held out the small wrapped box because you told me once you loved pearls. The room held its breath. Julia took a step forward, her voice tight. Claire, this is not the time to air your grievances. That's the problem, I replied louder now. Every time I speak up, it's the wrong time. And every time I stay quiet, you fill in the silence with lies. Gasps, audible ones. Julia's mask began to crack. This is my mother's birthday, I continued. And yes, I wanted to be here. I tried. I stood outside and Dad turned me away like I was some stranger. All eyes darted to my father, whose jaw clenched. You've all heard a version of me, I said, turning toward the room. That I'm distant. That I forgot where I came from. that I care more about my job than my family. But that's not who I am. I took a breath that felt like it came from the deepest part of me. I worked hard. I built something. That doesn't mean I stopped loving the people who shaped me. My mother looked stricken. Claire, is this true? Julia's composure finally shattered. You don't get it, Mum, she snapped. She left. She got to chase her dreams while I stayed here. I was the one helping you through doctor's appointments. I was the one picking up Sean when he got drunk at 3 a.m. I was the one holding the family together. No one asked you to be the martyr, I said, my voice gentle but firm. You chose that path, but blaming me doesn't make yours nobler. Don't act like you care, she spat. You send gifts and think that counts. I came tonight, didn't I? My mum slowly stood up. Enough, she said. And just like that, the room fell silent again. Let's take this into the private room, she added. Not for everyone else, just us. We need to talk. Really talk, Dad. Julia, Evan and I followed her like chastened schoolchildren. We moved into a small lounge at the back of the venue. A fireplace glowed dimly. There were no decorations, no distractions, just 4 chairs and a mountain of tension. Mum turned to my father first. Robert, did you really send our daughter away? Dad shifted uncomfortably. I thought it was best. After what she said to Julia on Thanksgiving, that was 3 years ago, I interrupted. And what I said was that I felt excluded. That's not a crime. Mum turned to Julia. Why didn't you tell me Claire was coming? Julia opened her mouth, but no sound came out. She thought it would upset you, Dad said for her. She was trying to protect you. I don't need protecting from my own daughter, Mum replied. I need honesty. The look on Julia's face was hard to describe, a mix of guilt, fury, and heartbreak. I was tired, she finally said. Tired of playing second fiddle even when I did everything right. You always lit up when Claire called. You kept her photo in your wallet, and when she got that feature in Forbes, you clipped it and put it on the fridge. You never did that for me. Mum blinked. I didn't know you felt that way. You didn't ask, Julia whispered. And there, it was, the raw truth, the ache behind the actions. I'm sorry, Mum said quietly, but hurting your sister won't make you feel more seen. We all sat in that silence for a moment, like the air itself needed time to catch up. I don't want to lose either of you, she added, but I can't fix what I don't see. Evan finally spoke. I should have said something sooner. I saw the tension, but I didn't know how deep it went. You helped more than you know, I said. Mum looked at me again, her voice softer now. Your gift. I handed it to her, unsure if she'd accept it. She unwrapped it carefully. When she saw the brooch, small, elegant, and shimmering, her eyes welled up. How did you remember? You showed me Grandma's jewellery box when I was 10, I said. Said it was your favourite, that it went missing during the move. She held it like something sacred. I thought you forgot. I never forget the things that matter. We sat for a long time after that, just breathing, just existing. And somehow, in that small private room, something shifted. The healing hadn't begun. Not really. But the silence had finally broken. And that's always the first step. Weeks passed. And with each passing day, things that had once felt impossible, like small, sincere exchanges with my mother, became part of a new rhythm. Our calls were no longer polite check-ins, but real conversations. She started asking about my work with interest, not suspicion. I started asking about her garden again. She sent me a photo of a single rose she had grown that bloomed late into the season. I had forgotten she loved roses, but not anymore. Then one afternoon my phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognise. Hello, Claire. It's your dad. I froze. He never called. Ever. If anything, I get an occasional forwarded article about AI or tech ethics, usually with a one-line note. Thought this might be relevant. Nothing personal. Nothing fatherly. Hi, Dad, I said cautiously. I was wondering if you'd be free to meet for lunch sometime. Maybe next time you fly through Chicago. That surprised me. Sure, I said after a pause. What brought this on? I've been doing some thinking, he replied, about the kind of father I've been, and the kind I want to be. The line went quiet for a moment, but I could hear it, the tension, the effort it took for him to admit that. I'm proud of you, Claire, he added. That did it? I felt my throat tighten. Thank you, Dad. It was a start. And soon, those short airport layovers in Chicago became tiny windows of reconnection. Sometimes it was just dinner with Mum at O'Hare. Sometimes an overnight stay. Once we all went to a quiet diner near their neighbourhood. They asked about my projects and I told them, without holding back. I brought my laptop once to show them a new user interface we'd launched. They listened, really listened. It wasn't some dramatic transformation overnight, no teary reunions, no perfect forgiveness, but it was honest, tentative, human. Sean even joined once. He was still unpredictable, still coasting between ideas and bartending jobs. But that night, he actually looked me in the eye and said, "I saw your interview on that podcast. You made some good points." It wasn't much, but coming from him, it was everything. As for Julia, we didn't talk for a while. After the party, she'd gone quiet. Evan told me they were taking space. I didn't ask for details, I figured he had enough to deal with. But I couldn't pretend I wasn't curious. Then one day Evan called. "Hey," he said, "do you have a few minutes?" "Sure. Everything okay?" "Yeah. Actually, no, we broke up." I paused. "I'm sorry. Are you okay?" "I think I am. It was coming for a while. She asked me to leave Matrix. Said it was disrespectful to keep working under you." My stomach sank. "What did you say?" I told her I respect myself too much to let anyone dictate my career choices. A beat of silence passed between us. "I never meant to come between you two," I said. "You didn't," he replied. "You just revealed what was already broken." He wasn't angry, just resolved. And I understood. Sometimes truth doesn't destroy, it reveals. That same week, I met with my therapist, Dr. Sutton. She was the kind of therapist who didn't hand out platitudes. She listened, then handed me questions like keys. "I heard you had a breakthrough with your family," she said, scribbling something in her notebook. "Kind of," I said. "It's messy. Still feels shaky." "That's real life," she said. "Not a Hallmark movie." I laughed. She looked up. "You stood up for yourself." How did that feel? Terrifying, I admitted. But also freeing, like I stopped asking for permission to exist. She smiled. "That's the shift. For years, your identity was tethered to how they saw you. Golden child versus scapegoat. Julia got rewarded for staying. You got shamed for leaving. Neither of us won," I said quietly. "No," she agreed. "But you've both been playing roles, and now you've stepped out of yours." Her words stayed with me for days. Because she was right, I had stopped playing the role of the black sheep. I wasn't just the one who left anymore. I was Claire, a woman who built her own life and still wanted connection, not out of guilt, but love. Then one crisp Saturday morning, a letter arrived. A real handwritten letter from Julia. I stared at it for almost an hour before opening it. "Claire, I've been thinking a lot about that night, about everything I said and didn't say. I was jealous, yes. Angry, yes, but also ashamed. You left and you made something of yourself. I stayed and I tried to be the glue. But instead, I became the gatekeeper. I told myself I was protecting Mum, protecting the family. But the truth is, I wanted to be the centre of it. I don't know how to fix what I broke, but I want to try. Julia." I reread it 3 times. Then I placed it on my desk beside the photo of Mum and me from Boston Harbor, and I just let myself feel. It wasn't closure. It wasn't resolution, but it was a crack of light through a door I thought was sealed shut. Later that week, Julia sent another message. "If you're ever in town, I'd like to have coffee. No expectations, just 2 sisters starting over." I stared at it heartful, unsure. But maybe, yes, maybe one day. Because here's what I've learned. Healing isn't a destination. It's not one big confrontation or one tearful hug. It's a series of small, brave choices. A willingness to stop pretending, a courage to speak even when your voice shakes. It's knowing that love, real love, requires truth, even when it's messy, especially when it's messy. And now, after years of silence, I've found mine.